So here we are again, another week has gone by, and this week I suppose you would have to call a William and Kate week.
Yep, very heavy on all things William and Kate this week.
Some weeks are Harry and Meghan heavy, some weeks are Charles and Camilla heavy. This week is definitely
dedicated to Kate and William. Yeah.
If you don't like the Cambridges, turn off now. Well, don't, because there is some Harry and Meghan news, there is some Camilla news. So there is plenty to talk about. As ever, how's your week been? You've seen some pictures. I saw the pictures this morning.
I've seen some pictures. I've seen some royals in the flesh.
Yep.
So yeah.
With masks. Peering in at the Kentucky Fried Chicken,
yes,
KFC.
That was a great picture. Yes. Yep.
Much to talk about. So we will rattle through our Cambridge heavy Royal Rota for this week. Thank you for joining us. You know that you can get us on YouTube if you're watching. If you just want to listen to us, which I have to say is probably
we don't blame you for that.
Advisable. You can get this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your normal podcast platform. You can find us by searching Royal Rota ITV. And the good thing about the podcast is every week Lizzie gives you a royal rundown. It's called the Robinsons Royal Rundown. It's everything that's happened in the past week in about a minute, and she's going to do that right now.
Yeah, so you can get your minute and then
go.
Then you can leave because you know what's happened.
Go.
So as you say, this is a Kate and William heavy week. They visited the Hold Still photographic exhibition that has gone live around the nation in towns and cities, so people can go and see these images. It was just digitally being exhibited.
It is now previously. IRL, as the kids would say.
In real life.
In real life.
You can go and sit in real life, which is really lovely, and it means that people can go and view them in their communities, which is great. And there was also this week 2 new patronages for William that he has inherited, one from the Queen and one from the Duke of Edinburgh. And these are sort of playing on his environmental concerns at the moment. They both...
One from Granny, one from Grandad.
Yep. They marked 1 year on from their tour to Pakistan with 2 video calls to 2 of the organisations that they met when they were out in Pakistan last year. Can you believe that was a year ago?
No, and I was actually just thinking, if that was a year ago, it was also just a couple of days away. It must be a year since ITV aired the Harry and Meghan documentary.
Yeah, because that was when we'd just come back,
yes,
wasn't
literally,
it?
Yes. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes, carry on.
So William paid a visit this week to the Royal Marsden Hospital in Sutton.
30 years after.
30 years after his mother opened the Royal Marsden in London. And now we're on to other things, other news. Harry and Meghan did a Time Talks this week, looking at the internet and creating a safer space for people. Their non-profit organisation, Archewell, has now got an official landing page online. So if you search archewell.com, you can something actually pops up and you can subscribe to them. There's nothing else to see there yet apart from a landing page with what Archewell means.
Yep.
And finally, but no less importantly, Camilla this week marked World Osteoporosis Day with a video message. This is obviously a cause that is incredibly close to her heart and very personal, and means a lot to her. So
it means a lot to her, yes, exactly, and we've done it many times before. So where do we start then? I mean, I suppose we should really rattle through the Cambridges, unless you want to start on Archewell. I've got up here actually what Archewell means as a little teaser for when we talk about it later. Archie is a noun, and it is a Greek word meaning something, which I'll show you, unless you go onto the website and find it yourself before I get round to it. And well is also a noun, a plentiful source or supply, where a place we go to dig deep. So we'll dissect those words that have appeared on the Archewell website. But shall we start, as you've seen Royals in the Flesh, shall we start with the Royals in the Flesh that you saw?
The Royals in the Flesh that I saw. Yes. So Kate launched Hold Still earlier this year, and this was to encourage members of the public to submit their photographs that captured sort of life in lockdown, and they picked 100 of the best pictures, creating a snapshot of life in lockdown around the UK, pictures right across the UK, and there are all sorts of different images: hope, sadness, fears, laughter, struggles, you know, the whole range. And this exhibition went live digitally, and it is now being brought to communities, to 112 exhibition sites in 80 different towns and cities.
What I liked about it was that they've decided to put one of these posters, or actually 3 of these posters, up in a place that I walk every single day when I get off the train and walk underneath the tracks and then get onto Waterloo Bridge to walk all the way over to this side of London. It's good for the steps, by the way. Anyway, so as when I came off the train this morning, it was the first thing that I saw was one poster with lots of those images. In fact, if you have a look on my Twitter page at ITV, you'll see the pictures on there. You can also see it on our Instagram page as well, or my Instagram page. I can't remember which one I put it on. See, we have 2 Instagram accounts. One is the ITV News Royals one, which we sort of put a lot of effort in. If you're following, I'm sure you'll know that. We also have our own account, and I cannot ever remember which one I uploaded it to. So anyhow, I took some pictures myself of these pictures. It looks pretty good, I thought. It's actually on, here's your answer, on my Instagram page at chris.ship.royal. And, it actually is worth just standing there for a minute and just taking them in when you see them all. We've kind of seen them on a screen. There was something for me a bit different about seeing them on a poster IRL.
Yeah, I think, this is something that we have all lived through. Everyone in the country has lived through this, and this is a chance for everyone to go and now see these pictures. And I think you can relate to all of these pictures in different ways.
Yes.
And also, by having the exhibition outside, it means it's safe. It works in COVID times, so it plays on the theme of it being an exhibition about coronavirus.
Yeah,
so it
rather
allows
than just
people
have it at the National Portrait Gallery, it's almost better that we're actually going to get to see it all around the country. And actually, there was a really, really big picture, again, which is on my Twitter page of Sami.
Just plugging your
plugging my Twitter page. Yeah,
your
I mean, it's fine.
Twitter page, yeah.
It's a picture of Sami, and you actually got to meet him, didn't you, and did an interview with him, and just
did.
before he left the country as well.
Yeah, this is a really lovely story. So Sami is he is from Sudan. He was raised in Brazil, and he's over in the UK to do a PhD. He arrived in January, and obviously soon after we went into lockdown.
Yeah.
And he just moved into a flat in London, and below the flat was a community food hub in Hackney, and he started volunteering for them. And that photograph of him, which if you're watching on YouTube you can probably see now, was taken by somebody he'd never met before. That was the first time he'd met them when they took that photograph of him volunteering, and they submitted it without him knowing. And
lovely.
he's obviously
he seemed really happy about it. Actually, should we hear some of your interview
Yeah,
that you
let's
did with
hear
him?
some of
Because
it.
he seemed really, really pleased that his picture was one of the final 100, and what a way to remember your time in the UK over the past year.
It feels incredibly humbling, but incredibly, I'm really happy. I'm really, throughout the pandemic, we were very isolated and it felt alone and it felt so hard. But like through seeing that project, that the National Portrait Gallery and Duchess of Cambridge organized, you can see that we were all united in the human experience. We all went through, reading through some of the stories and seeing the photos, you can relate to a little bit of some of them. Like it could be like, wow, I know what you mean. And that was really cool.
I mean, he's very happy, I think, and I think he'll probably miss his time here. It's been quite an eventful year.
I know. I said to him, I was like, you have to come back and see the UK when it's not in lockdown. But I just thought that showed. I mean, he's here for a limited period of time, but he, felt really strongly that he wanted to give something back to his community.
Gave something of himself, yeah.
That's sort of shown the best of people. This pandemic has really brought the best out in people, and I think Sami encapsulated that. And he'd also spoken to the Duchess on the phone prior to the engagement, and then he was with them as they went and looked at all the pictures around Waterloo. So
no, it's actually quite a dangerous place. I mean, I risk my life nearly every day getting across that road. I mean,
never want to be dramatic.
Did they stop the traffic for William and Kate, or was it just as hustly and bustly as it always is?
Obviously, with all these engagements at the moment, they haven't wanted to draw crowds, so we sort of had to very discreetly try and gather near the pictures just ahead of their arrival. And then, they literally just pulled up, got out of the car and looked at the pictures. Yeah. Obviously, people saw them, but, people were respectful, stood back, took photographs. It was all
Well, it's also a spot where my bus sometimes stops, and I get really annoyed when taxis stop there and hold my bus up. So
we're going to rename this podcast Chris's Commute.
If I was on the bus and their car held me up, I would be really annoyed.
It didn't. It literally swooped in, out they got, and the car moved on.
Well, that's fine then. I'm just glad that worked.
And then they went down the road to St Bart's Hospital, as we call it, St Bartholomew's Hospital, and there they met a pharmacist, Joyce, who had taken a photograph which is called All in This Together, and that showed some of her colleagues writing names, faces, hearts on their disposable PPE.
Which, if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably looking at right now. If you're running, listening to this podcast, as one of our colleagues' wife does, we know, hello. Then you won't be able to see it at all. You just have to imagine it or go back and look at them. But the director of the Natural Portrait Gallery was also there, wasn't he, Nicholas Cullinan?
He was, explaining, how they really wanted to bring this into communities so that people could come and see the portraits, and it will be on display for 4 weeks, so you've got plenty of time to go and find a site near you. They're all over the country, so most people should be able to get to one. And there's a huge mural in Manchester, isn't there?
Again, well, if you're watching on YouTube, we'll show you the picture of the Manchester one right now. And funny enough, I went on Google Maps the other day and found that wall of what it looked like before the mural went up. So there's a before and an after, which you could see on my Twitter. Again, you might have to just hang out there all day. The before and then the after. And that's the most impressive one, I thought. That was more impressive than the posters that they've put up.
So they've only
painted it onto that wall somehow.
Yeah, they've and that's the only one like that. The rest are sort of poster exhibitions.
That was phenomenal.
But it's great, and that is of a lady called Melanie, and it was taken by Joanna Churchill, and it shows Melanie in her PPE.
Massive mural on
equipment.
That wall.
It's off the high street if you're in Manchester, and lots of people were messaging me at the weekend saying, where is it? It's just off the high street if you're looking for it.
Yes.
So there you go and find it. It looks brilliant.
So let's have a quick listen then to Nicholas Cullinan.
But we received these extraordinary images, and not only are they from all four corners of the UK, but they express different experiences, different walks of life, and so we really wanted to capture that and then reflect it back, and we felt it was very important to take it back to the communities that had made it possible in the first place and actually created this. The Duchess has been very involved all the way through. I think this has been a really important project for her. It reflects her love of both portraiture and photography, and so our teams, the National Portrait Gallery and Kensington Palace, have worked very closely together. And I think, again, yes, we were always keen to make sure that this would reach different people and hopefully connect us all. And I think one thing that's quite interesting is that obviously, no matter what all the different experiences we've been through, and the final 100 images reflect different experiences, we have all been through something. And I think the idea was that this would be something that could be somehow cohesive and inclusive and reflect what we've all experienced over the last few months.
And of course, we can't go through this whole sequence talking about Hold Still without hearing again from Mila Snedden. We went up to see Mila, as I'm sure we told you a couple of weeks ago, and every time we do this little sequence, it's worth hearing her say again how the whole world is going to know about her picture and how a real-life princess actually chose her picture. Do you know about your picture? Tell us about it.
So there's a real-life princess who picked my picture. The Queen knows about everything. See, everyone in this whole entire world will see my picture.
That's a lovely way to wrap up that little sequence. I think we should probably move on to what Granny and Grandad gave William as a present earlier this week. A couple of patronages, one that the Queen's had for about 60 billion years or something.
Fauna and Flora International.
Okay, so I'll be more accurate. She's had for about 7 decades, which is a long time.
It is a long time.
And one that the Duke of Edinburgh, William's granddad, has had for about 30 years or so.
The British Trust for Ornithology, which is...
BTO.
Birds.
Birds, yes. It's all about birds.
Yeah.
So one is a passion of his grandmother's, one of his grandfather's. It also kind of explains where this whole... I mean, how did William refer to it last week when we spoke about the Earthshot Prize? The inheritance that he's had from his older generation. So his grandfather in particular was an early founder of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF. He's been involved in British Trust for Ornithology for 30 years. But also it was when he was on, and Buckingham Palace released some pictures that you can look at right now if you're watching on YouTube. Or you can find on our social media pages if you're not, then you can see the pictures of the Duke of Edinburgh. It was 1956 when he was on the Royal Yacht Britannia, sailing somewhere remote, like between New Zealand and Antarctica, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing. And that's sort of where his fascination with
Yes.
ornithology began, and they released 2 photographs this week, as Chris said, and that's they were from that trip in 1956.
And he wrote a book.
He did.
I can't remember the title of the book. It's something like the Birds from Britannica.
Birds from Britannia, yes.
Oh, Britannia.
Britannia.
Britannica is an encyclopedia. Britannia is the
almost.
boat.
That was published in 1962.
Yes, because he did another trip and added a few more on there. So we thought that was quite interesting, and it ties in with all the stuff that William's now kind of ramping up in quite a big way, isn't he?
I think it's lovely. It threads through, the family's passion for the environment, and it builds on the work that William has been doing recently on
slightly
the environment.
the workload for Granny and Grandad as well.
Yeah, and I think it's nice. And he's launched his £50 million Earthshot Prize recently. He's on a podcast tomorrow actually talking about that, the Outrage and Optimism podcast, which is the most widely listened to climate change podcast. Actually, I should say that's Friday, which is the day that our podcast goes live.
So kind of today.
If you want to listen to that, then
we'll bring you all the news on that next week.
We will.
And what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, about the Earthshot Prize. Oh, Pakistan, that's right, because it ties into some of the climate change stuff that they were doing in Pakistan, which is, again, about a year ago that we were there, and they marked their 1-year anniversary for what was actually, it kind of felt quite big at the time, but looking back on it, it was a pretty memorable, reamable trip there.
I think it was probably one of my favourite royal tours we've ever done. I loved Pakistan. I thought the trip was amazing. The people, the scenery, the culture. It was just Do you remember them turning up at the reception in the tuk-tuk?
In the tuk-tuk, wearing the national dress. It was a really great trip. And do you remember, like their chief press officer at the time, their private secretary were all dressed as well for that event.
That event was absolutely beautiful. That was it was a stunning location. But yes, they've caught up in the last week with 2 organisations that they met when they were out in Pakistan. The Islamabad Model College for Girls. And during that call, they played a really lovely, fun game of Pictionary that we can bring you.
We want to play a little game with you. So the game is called Pictionary.
We'll give it a go.
Oh, is it a wedding?
No.
Is it a birthday?
A birthday.
Yes.
Yes, good job.
That's a really hard one.
I'm very glad you guys are drawing and we're not having to draw.
Are you able to see?
I'm getting closer and closer to the camera. Is it meant to be
cricket?
Is it cricket?
Yes, good job.
Very good.
So do you appreciate being back in school now and seeing your friends and your teachers?
Yes, very happy. Do you like drawing?
Yes, definitely. We both like a little bit of drawing. Catherine is very good. I am really bad.
Why?
Why, Liz? You don't practice enough.
I don't practice enough. That's very true.
You're doing an amazing job, and particularly now when things have been so difficult, and you're a real lifeline to families out there. So congratulations on all the hard work.
And they also spoke to the SOS Children's Village. And do you remember this was where there was the unexpected stop in Lahore? They went back to the SOS Children's Village on the day that they weren't supposed to be there.
Because we had that mid-air fright,
yes,
didn't we, where their RAF plane went through that electric storm and nearly got blown out of the air.
So
laughing about it now, I don't think I was at the time.
Utterly terrifying. But they'd visited the SOS Children's Village as planned when they went to Lahore, and then they went back on the day that was unplanned, and that's when they played that game of cricket outside with all the children. And they caught up with a little boy that they had that they'd played cricket with, and he'd drawn a very sweet picture of him playing cricket with the Duke, which was really nice.
Do you remember talking about that plane? Do you remember being on the plane at the time and everyone was saying, "Why didn't you take any pictures or video?" And they were literally sitting on there, holding on to the arms,
gripping onto the arms. Yes.
And all the news editors said was, "Well, didn't you film it? I mean, didn't you get any video?" And we kind of went,
No,
didn't really think about that at the time. Anyway, something else that made that trip quite
memorable. Yes, exactly.
Have we done Royal Marsden yet?
No.
We haven't, have we?
We haven't.
Okay, so have a look at these pictures. You'll notice some similarities. Funny enough, you also find these pictures on our social media pages, at Chris and ITV on Twitter, at, where did I put it? I think I put it on ITV News Royals on Instagram. So one is of Prince William this week at the Royal Marsden in Sutton, officially starting the construction of a new cancer centre.
The Oak Cancer Centre, yep.
The other was of his mother in 1993, officially starting the building of the Chelsea wing, I think it was, of the Royal Marsden in London, continuing something or close association with that NHS trust that his mother had 30 or so years ago.
Yeah, and he gave a speech during his visit to the Marsden, and he actually referenced his mother's visit there 30 years ago.
Every time I visit the Marsden, I am struck not just by the significant advances that have been made in research and treatment, but also by the hope and belief embodied by each patient and member of staff, even in the darkest of times. I'm personally delighted to be with you all today to lay the foundation stone of the Oak Centre, 30 years after my mother did the very same thing at the Royal Marsden in Chelsea, commemorating the building of the Chelsea wing.
He started the construction officially, but they still don't have enough money. So if you feel like doing a good deed today, the Royal Marsden, just Google them, the Royal Marsden charity.
Yeah, they've
still need more money.
They've raised almost 62 million of the 70 million needed to complete the.
There must be someone
cancer
watching this who's just got
centre.
£8 million sloshing about their account that they can just donate.
And on a serious note, though, this is.
I had to look at my account, but I didn't.
You didn't have
but
8
no,
million
I
lying
think
around.
We should all make a donation, whatever you can afford, to this charity.
On a serious note, though, there has been, obviously with the pandemic, one of the things that there is concern that people aren't getting
Donations.
Donations aren't
Across
going
the board.
for enough checkups
Yep.
because they're worried about going to see doctors at this time. William spoke about how there does remain hope for many thousands of people dealing with the effects of cancer despite the ongoing pandemic.
Yeah, he spoke about the knock-on effects of coronavirus have been felt widely. The
Yes.
impact on cancer treatment for patients up and down the country has been one of the most acute and challenging.
Yeah, so raising awareness about that as well, and it's obviously incredibly important that people still go and see their doctors.
Are we William and Kated out?
Yes.
You're checking your list.
I'm checking my list, yeah.
Checking your list of William and Kate
Checking
this week.
my list.
And they're likely, although we don't know for sure, but they're likely to have a quiet week next week because in the UK it is a school holiday for 1 week and they tend to go very quiet in
Yes,
those
I don't expect us to see too much in them next week.
But you might see some of the other royals, which we can't tell you about at the moment. What should we talk about? Oh, no. We haven't finished William and Kate. We haven't done KFC.
Oh!
We haven't done KFC.
We haven't done KFC.
Well, listen, so we're talking about the aforementioned arches at Waterloo, which, as you well know now, is part of my commute in and out of work. There is a quite recently installed KFC. In fact, it's not been there for that long.
Gosh, I wasn't expecting the history of the
it
KFC
as well.
branch,
Actually,
but what a...
I can imagine it's been very quiet during coronavirus, and I used to worry about whether or not it would reopen, but not only has it reopened, it has customers inside. Some of those customers inside who were having their lunch got a bit of a surprise when a certain Prince William poked his nose up against the glass and had a look inside. Again, a great picture to look at, so here it is on YouTube. And you know where to go if you're listening to this podcast and actually want to see it. So.
And KFC played a blinder on the PR around this. They did a couple of tweets, one saying, "I just can't wait to be wing," and then another one, "His Royal Fineness." Brilliant. But we know William is a Nando's man, really, so he was obviously seeing what the competition was like.
I like in the picture, one of it says, "What's clucking?" Inside, and he obviously wanted to know what was clucking inside.
I think he took away a bargain bucket for him and Kate between the visits.
Yeah, he's got nothing in his hand, but
no,
I'd imagine
didn't go
he'd struggle with those sort of self-order screens. Maybe he hasn't done them too many times.
It was sweet though because they were going to get in the car, and that's when he stopped to sort of peer in, and people were waving and came out to say hello to him. So it was sweet. But the pictures are
just hand him over a bucket to eat in the car. You could have seen him and Kate just
sharing a bargain bucket.
Right, okay, we're done with William and Kate. We will not go back.
I can't believe we've nearly forgot that.
Exactly. What was that on your list? I thought you checked your list.
I just put Kate and William hold still and thought I'd remember.
So we've done KFC. That's the main thing.
And we can go from one arch to another arch.
That was good. Do you know what arch means?
I do, yeah. It's the Greek word meaning source of action.
You know what? It's a noun, and it's the Greek word meaning, quotes, source of action.
As I just said.
Where did you get that from?
My notes.
Okay, but I've got the actual website here. Look, here you go. That's the real life Archewell.com website, where there is one page, Archewell, And what does well mean?
A plentiful source of supply, a place we go to dig deep.
A plentiful source or supply. So what do we read into all of this? They're going to do actiony things, and they're going to supply source extra things and get people to dig deep into their pockets to give. Kinda?
Kinda. I think maybe the branding side of things isn't for you. I think stick with the journalism.
Okay. So this is Archewell. This is the foundation that remember. I mean, long history here, isn't it? Remember that Harry and Meghan wanted to create the Royal Foundation, or the Sussex Royal Foundation, and they were told they couldn't keep the royal name because they were leaving the royal family, so they set up Archewell. It was meant to be up and running by now, but it's all been delayed by COVID-19. So this is a step towards it shows a lot of work is going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
But they've got as far as a landing page, so you can go on there.
Yeah, and you can sign up.
Put your email on.
And I've signed up. I signed up a few days ago and haven't received anything yet.
Oh,
so
a personal invitation for tea in Santa Barbara?
Not yet, no, but I'm sure it's on its way.
Yeah, of course.
And obviously, Arch is, it's sweet link with Archie. Yeah, just.
Yep. Is that the name of their son?
Yes.
So there's some Harry and Meghan news. I can't really bring you any more than that, really. But anyway, go look it up. Archewell. So ARCHEWELL.
Archewell.com.
Archewell.com.
Anyway, they have spoken again this week.
They've been speaking.
They've done quite a lot of
time. A lot of Zoomy video.
Yeah, they've done a lot. And actually, as they sort of sit in different places in their house, there's been a lot of chatter on social media about what's in the background. People like to analyse what's in the background. And there's obviously quite a lot of thought that goes into this, because they've moved to different places, and one of the books has moved between. The women book has moved from different locations. They've got some good floral displays. I think they.
Yeah, I saw something about some wall art or something last week, and how much it was and where you can buy it from. So.
So yeah, they were. Other than what their backdrop was, they were doing a Time 100.
What was the important stuff?
They were doing a Time 100 talk, and they
wasn't it a specially curated Time 100 talk?
Specially curated Time 100 talk, and this was discussing how to create a safer digital world. So they've done a lot on this recently. This is obviously one of the areas that they're going to really focus their work on, and they talked to various guests.
Sorry to interrupt. Kind of what they were talking about when they said about go vote and avoid online negativity. I mean, that is one of the things they spoke about. They were obviously criticised for whatever reason over affiliation to Trump or Biden, etc., etc. But yeah, you're right. That's obviously a place they're heading.
Yeah, they described a global crisis of misinformation that spreads online, and they've spoken to kind of professors and experts in this field to sort of share ideas on how to make a safer, healthier, and better place for all of us. And I think that is a great idea. The internet can be a horrible place. And anything anyone can do to try and make it a safer space is only a good thing.
Yes, I know that only too well myself. By putting up a picture of Harry this week, it got corrupted in the way in which the Twitter improve image function put it up, because it was black and white, added something to Harry's eye, and then I had so many Twitter messages saying that I'd done it deliberately, that I photoshopped it, I was trying to make it look like Harry was either unhappy or just so much negativity out there. Even though I put up an apology and said, actually, honest, genuine mistake, took it down, put up the picture again.
Yeah, it can be a really nasty space. So
it is actually. It's quite draining space, I find.
Yeah,
really draining.
And very all-consuming space as well.
I often just say, you know what, I'm not going to go on Twitter today because I don't feel like being dragged down by it. Instagram on the whole is generally much better, 90% better, but not free of abuse. But
and there was also, they spoke a little bit about Archie as well, and how they've spoken about this previously, but the advantages of being locked down means that they've had really precious family time, watching him grow up and kind of savouring every moment of that, which is one of the positives, I suppose.
Well, let's listen to what they had to say.
Okay. Our commitment to the causes that we have really worked towards for a long time, well before even knowing each other, are unwavering. And it was only in the past couple of years that we've both started to connect the dots of all of the work that I was doing on women's empowerment or young girls and their sense of self and self-worth, and seeing what the online spaces were doing to that community. And equally, I think, you know, obviously my husband has worked quite a bit in the space of mental health, but also the environment, which you can touch on.
Yeah, I think that the mental health aspect is the most obvious to people. I think that's very much been a topic of conversation across a lot of the platforms, but also in the media as well. And let's not forget that these places are a refuge for some people, but it is it can be a sort of a love-hate relationship. But certainly, you know, for the things that I'm passionate about, especially for the environment that I've been involved in it with now for 12, 15 years, for me, what I see is the digital space hampering the progress that needs to be made. And this misinformation that seems to snowball from one place that is in the online space, even, and then ending up in our physical world. And you know, a lot of the time we don't know where it comes from. We don't know how to trace it back. So,
yeah, I think to that point, both of us realized, well, hold on a second. We can continue to champion these things that we're passionate about. We can continue to do this work to try to affect change and help the people that need it most, or the communities or environments that need it most. But it's almost like you're taking 2 steps forward and 5 steps backwards if you can't get to the root cause of the problem, which at this point right now we see in a large way as a lot of what's happening in the tech space.
So there's Harry, Meghan's latest contribution. I genuinely hope this one they are successful with, because it's a really important subject. And actually, as much as social media is fantastic, it has so many negative sides, doesn't it? And
I think particularly if you're a young person, I think whatever age you are, it's horrible, particularly if you're a young person using social media. It can be incredibly dangerous. So
it's changed the way people communicate, it's changed the way people interact with one another and all the rest of it.
But they are clearly ramping up the amount of work that they're doing. We've heard a lot from them recently. And
because they were quiet for a long time, so obviously they've got a lot of stuff from earlier in the year they wanted to get out. It's US elections in a couple of weeks as well, so
it is.
Let's
I wonder if we'll hear anything else
from
that.
Right, I haven't seen any betting on Meghan becoming president in 2024, 2028 recently, but I'm sure it's out there.
I'm sure we will.
People go find it. Camilla, osteoporosis, we know it's a very, very, very big issue close to her heart because of what happened to her mother, died from it, her grandmother died from it as well. So she's been out campaigning in that field, hasn't she, this week?
She has. She marked World Osteoporosis Day with a video message and a tea at Clarence House. And in her video message, she was reminding people that how important it is to stay active for our bones, even in the midst of a pandemic. So still stay active.
I became involved with osteoporosis 26 years ago after my mother died as a result of this devastating disease. In those dark old days, it was seldom discussed, rarely diagnosed, and usually attributed to old women with so-called dowager's humps. My family and I knew nothing about it and were at a loss to know how we could help alleviate the terrible pain she suffered. But how times have changed. Today, huge strides have been made in the treatment and research into osteoporosis, and we now know how it can be prevented and how we can support those who are living with it.
So stay active, keep eating dairy as well. Do you remember she said that recently when we went to an osteoporosis thing? Because it's very important that especially with younger women, they don't cut out dairy for whatever dietary reason, because actually
good for our bones.
Good for your bones and helps with osteoporosis. We're done, actually, aren't we?
We are.
I think.
Yes.
Nothing more to talk about. I could plug the.
Do you want to plug any more social media? Do you want to tell us any more
There's
about?
that lovely picture of that lady in Manchester.
Anything else you'd like to tell us about your commute?
I could tell you about my. No, I'm not actually getting the bus very much at the moment. I'm walking, so hence why the trainers are on mostly these days. I only put the posh shoes on when I need to, but yes, one walks because.
One might argue that you could put them on for a podcast, but you know.
One might argue that I could dress up for the podcast, but as my feet are generally like off-camera shots, and half the people don't even watch; they listen. So you know,
it's just me that has to look at them.
Yeah, you look much smarter than me most of the time. In any case, right, we're done. We're back next week. Well, actually, what are we going to do? Do we announce that Lizzie's disappearing? Basically, she's abandoning.
Not permanently, I should add.
Okay, she's temporarily abandoning the ITV News Royal Bureau. For what reason?
I'm going out to America to cover the US elections from Florida. Which
Working
is
with
very
our
exciting.
star anchor Julie Etchingham. So basically, I've been dumped for a better location, a better story, and a better correspondent.
The Sunshine State, but I will still be very much across the Royals, and we will still try and do a podcast next week.
Are we going to try and do one, even though you're in Florida?
Yes.
Right.
But
okay.
we'll do it over Zoom because obviously
we haven't worked out how to do
we
that.
won't be in the same room.
No,
but we will try and do one.
I figured as much, yes.
unless you want to come to Florida.
Well, if someone wants to pay for me to come to Florida, I would happily come.
I'm heading to the Sunshine State for some warmth.
For a couple of weeks, and then you'll have to isolate when you come back.
Yeah,
so actually you won't be in the
weeks.
studio for a month or so.
3 weeks, 4 weeks, yeah.
So there we are.
So look forward to seeing you in person
Lizzie,
when I'm back.
It's the last time you're going to see this copy's up, and we will see you. Which camera are we on? This one. We will see you. Oh, I will see you next week. Lizzie will be on the beach in Florida underneath a palm tree, and
working very hard.